the book of Genesis chapter 1. We're going to start there. So pay close attention, take note, all right? We're going to open up with the book of, give me the book of Hosea 12. Hosea 12 and verse 10. Hosea, actually, you know what? Give me the book of Amos. Amos chapter 3. Amos 3 verse 7. Give me Amos chapter 3.
The book of Amos, chapter 3, verse 7. Surely the Lord God will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants, the prophets.
So it says, the Lord God will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants, the prophets. He revealeth his secret unto his servants, the prophets. Give me the book of Deuteronomy 29. Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 29. With that, the book of Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 29.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 29, verses 29.
Come on.
The secret things belong unto the Lord our God, but those things which are revealed belong unto us.
But those things which are what?
But those things which are revealed.
But those things which are revealed, come on.
Belong unto us and to our children forever.
Come on.
That we may know, that we may do all the words of this law.
You see that thing? It says, but those things which are revealed belong unto us and our children forever. So the Lord will reveal his secrets unto the prophets, and the prophets will teach the people, including the children. You understand? Go back to Amos 3 verse 7. Amos chapter 3 verse 7.
The book of Amos chapter 3 verse 7.
Come on.
Surely the Lord God will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants, the prophets.
So the Lord reveals his secrets unto his servants, the prophets. And the way he speaks to the prophets, give me the book of Hosea 12 now, verse 10. Hosea 12 verse 10. Hosea chapter 12 verse 10. The Lord revealed his secrets unto his servants, the prophets. And the way the Lord spoke to the prophets from the beginning of time unto this day, okay, is through similitudes, parables, dark sayings, and proverbs. You understand? And visions. Give me that in Hosea 12 and verse 10.
The book of Hosea chapter 12 verse 10.
Read.
I have also spoken by the prophets, and I have multiplied visions and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets.
You see that thing? I have also spoken by the prophets. You remember he said, he revealed his secrets unto his servants, the prophets. I have also spoken by the prophets. I have multiplied visions and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets. Give me the book of Numbers 12, verse 6. Numbers, chapter 12 and verse 6.
The book of Numbers, chapter 12, verse 6. And he said, hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream.
You see that thing? It says, I, the Lord, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision. I will make, the Lord says, he will make himself known unto that prophet in a vision, and he will speak unto him in a dream. You understand? So the Lord will speak to, he speaks to the prophet in various forms. He uses visions and dreams, use similitudes and parables, and proverbs and dark sayings. You understand? Go back to Hosea 12, verse 10.
The book of Hosea, chapter 12, verse 10.
Read.
I have also spoken by the prophets, and I have multiplied visions and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets.
Come on. Read that again.
Is there iniquity?
I'm sorry, read verse 10 again.
The book of Hosea, chapter 12, verse 10. I have also spoken by the prophets, and I have multiplied visions and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets.
So now the visions and similitudes, that's how the Lord speaks to the prophets. The similitude is an illustrated story. It's a parable. Give me that in Psalm 78 verse 1. Psalms chapter 78 verse 1.
The book of Psalms 78 verse 1. Give ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth.
It says, incline your ears to the words of my mouth. Meaning the things that you must pay attention to and listen to is the word of the Lord's mouth. This Bible. Give me that in Ecclesiasticus chapter 16 verse 24. Sirach chapter 16 verse 24. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. Meaning what? You must pay attention to what this Bible says. Open your ears to this Bible. Okay? Sirach 16 verse 24. Read that.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 16, verses 24.
Read.
My son, hearken unto me and learn knowledge, and mark my words with thy heart.
You see what it's saying? It says, mark my words with thy heart. Mark my words with your mind. Which words? The words of this law. You understand? The words of this law. Verse 24 again.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 16, verse 24. My son, hearken unto me and learn knowledge, and mark my words with thy heart.
You see that thing? Mark my word, the words of this law, the words of this Bible. That's what you're supposed to listen to. That's what you're supposed to put in your mind. Okay? Go back to Psalm 78, verse 1 again.
The book of Psalms, chapter 78, verses 1.
Read.
Give ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth.
Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. Read on.
I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old.
Read that again, verse 2.
The book of Psalms, chapter 78, verse 2. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old.
So the Lord says he will open his mouth in a parable. He will utter dark sayings of old. Because the way the Bible is written, there are things that are written plainly. There are those that are written in deep, dark mysteries. You understand? So now watch this. Give me the book of Matthew 18, verse 34. He says, I will open my mouth in a parable. A parable is an illustrated story. Okay? A parable. Matthew 13, verse 34. Matthew chapter 13, verse 34.
The book of Matthew, chapter 13, verse 34.
Come on.
All these things spake Jesus unto the multitude in parables.
Come on.
And without a parable spake he not unto them.
He says, without parable spake he not unto them. Read on. Watch this. Verse 35.
That it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet, saying.
Which was what?
Which was spoken by the prophet, saying.
Which was spoken by the prophet. So he's going to quote David. He's going to quote King David in Psalm 78, what we just read. Read verse 35 again.
The book of Matthew, chapter 13, verse 35. That it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet, saying.
Read.
I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter things which have been kept secret from the foundation of the world.
Read.
Then Jesus sent the multitude away and went into the house. And his disciples came unto him, saying, Declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field.
Declare unto us the parables of the tares of the field. So Christ was expounding unto them the parables regarding the tares. If you read up from verse 24 down, okay? So, but what we're reading here is that Christ spoke in parables that the scriptures might be fulfilled. What we read in Psalm 78, what we read in Hosea 12, what we read in Numbers 12, verse 6, and so forth. Okay, watch this. Give me the book of John 16:25. John chapter 16, verse 25.
The book of John, chapter 16, verses 25. These things have I spoken unto you in Proverbs.
In what?
In Proverbs.
These things have I spoken unto you in Proverbs. Proverbs means what? Parables, illustrated stories, similitudes. Read on.
But the time cometh when I shall no more speak unto you in Proverbs, but I shall show you plainly of the Father.
You see that thing? But I shall show you plainly of the Father. When the Lord returns, He will teach us again. You understand? He will teach us again. He's going to expound and speak unto us plainly and make these things plain. You understand? Give me Matthew chapter 13. Matthew chapter 13, start at verse 10. Matthew 13, verse 10.
The book of Matthew, chapter 13, verse 10. And the disciples came and said unto him, Why spakest thou unto them in parables?
Why do you speak unto them in proverbs, in dark sayings, in similitudes? Read on.
He answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given.
You see what the Lord is saying? He says, because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. The mysteries of the kingdom of heaven is given to those that humble down to what is written in this Bible. You understand? If you humble down to what this Bible says, you will receive the parables of knowledge. Give me that in Sirach chapter 1. Ecclesiasticus chapter 1 verse 25.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 1, verses 25.
Mm-hmm.
The parables of knowledge are in the treasures of wisdom, but godliness is in an abomination to a sinner.
Okay, read that again, verse 25.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 1, verse 25. The parables of knowledge are in the treasures of wisdom, but godliness in an abomination to a sinner.
But godliness is an abomination to a sinner. It says the parables of knowledge are in the treasures of wisdom. So the parables of knowledge is what? Is these dark sayings. Those are the parables of knowledge. Okay? It says the parables of knowledge are in the treasures of wisdom. Because wisdom is a treasure. Like the class we went over a couple of days back, you're gonna find if you seek after the wisdom of the laws of God like unto treasure, you're gonna understand the parables of knowledge. You understand? And when the prophets bring them out, you will be able to understand them as well. Jump up to verse 23. Verse 23, Sirach 123.
A patient man will bear for a time, and afterward joy shall spring up unto him.
Because in this walk, you need to be patient. Don't try to ask for wisdom and knowledge that you will not be able to receive, or your spirit will not be able to handle. You understand? Verse 23 again.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 1, verse 23. A patient man will bear for a time, and afterward joy shall spring up unto him.
So now remember, it says, a patient man will bear for a time. Watch this. For the time until the Lord will reveal understanding unto him. For the time until the parables of knowledge will be declared unto him. Watch this. Give me the book of Sirach, chapter 20, verse 32. We coming back here. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 20, verse 32.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 20, verses 32. Necessary patience in seeking the Lord is better than he that leadeth his life without a guide.
You see that thing? Necessary patience in seeking the Lord. You need to be patient. And patience is necessary in seeking the Lord. You're not going to seek the Lord without being patient. You need to be patient and wait. Study, to be quiet. Gather understanding. Follow instruction and counsel. Then the Lord will declare the parables of knowledge unto you. Go back to Sirach 123.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 1, verse 23.
Mm-hmm.
A patient man will bear for a time, and afterward joy shall spring up unto him.
Because this man, he understands that patience is necessary in seeking the Lord. You understand? It's necessary. So it says, and afterward joy shall spring up unto him. The joy of the Lord will be his strength. Read on, verse 24.
He will hide his words for a time, and the lips of many shall declare his wisdom.
You see that thing? He will hide his words for a time, and the lips of many shall declare his wisdom. You understand? For instance, if you look at us, we've been in the shadows for a while. I'm talking about us as a camp. Now, the stuff is starting to go out now, okay? The laws of God, the Most High God is allowing us to put our stuff out there. And guess what? Slowly, when I start to see, people are starting to notice what's going on. You understand? Read that again, verse 24.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verse 24.
Read.
He will hide his words for a time, and the lips of many shall declare his wisdom.
You see that thing right there? Because only a patient man will be able to understand this thing. He understands that it's a process to learn this book. All right? Read verse 26 now. Come on.
If thou desire wisdom, keep the commandments.
That's the secret sauce right there. If you desire wisdom, keep the laws of God. Keep the commandments. Apply. Read.
And the Lord shall give her unto thee.
And the Lord will give her unto you, will give wisdom unto you. Read on.
For the fear of the Lord is wisdom.
For the what?
For the fear of the Lord is wisdom.
For the fear of the Lord is wisdom. So the first thing you must do first, you must fear the Most High God. Give me that in Psalms 119, verse 120. Psalms 119, verse 120.
The book of Psalms, chapter 119, verses 120. My flesh trembleth for fear of thee. I am afraid of thy judgments.
You see that thing? I am afraid of thy judgment. So the thing that we must be afraid of, we must be afraid of God's judgment. All right? That is the first thing that must come upon us. The first thing that the Lord requires of us is fear. It's not love, it's fear. Give me that in Deuteronomy chapter 10. Deuteronomy chapter 10 and verse 12. Watch this.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 10 verse 12. And now Israel, what doth the Lord thy God require of thee? But to fear the Lord thy God.
To do what?
To fear the Lord thy God.
That's the first thing that the Lord requires of us. To fear him. Not to love him, no. To fear him. To fear. To be afraid of his judgments, like David said. That's how we're going to get the wisdom that the Lord wants to give unto us. Okay? Read that again, verse 12.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 10, verse 12. And now, Israel, what doth the Lord thy God require of thee?
Read.
But to fear the Lord thy God,
Read.
to walk in all his ways and to love him, and to serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul.
You see that thing? So now it says, first thing, you must fear the Most High God. Then the second thing is, you must walk in all the ways of the Most High God. Then the third thing says, and you must love him. So notice where the love part is on the face. It's set on the lips. Okay, the first thing is fear. The second thing is walk in all his ways and love him. Then serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul. That is what the Lord requires of us. Go back to Sirach now, chapter 1, verse 27.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verses 27.
Come on. For the fear of the Lord is wisdom and instruction, and faith and meekness are his delight. You see that thing? He's letting you know what the Most High is delighted in. The Lord is delighted in faith, meekness. You understand? Fear, instruction, faith, and meekness. This is what delights the Most High God. Fear, that's the first thing, so you can get that wisdom. That fear in itself is wisdom. You fearing the Most High God, that's wisdom right there. Just that fear alone is wisdom. Because you understand, if I do this, the Lord will judge me. Okay? So now it says fear, wisdom, instruction, faith, and meekness. This is what the Lord delights in. Okay? So we need to understand that thing. Read that again, verse 27.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verse 27. For fear of the Lord is wisdom and instruction, and faith and meekness are his delight.
Okay, now jump up to verse 16 now. Start at read verse 15. 1:6.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verses 16. To fear the Lord is fullness of wisdom, and filleth men with the fruits.
You see that thing? The fruit is what we read in Galatians 5:22. Read that again, verse 16.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verse 16. To fear the Lord is fullness of wisdom, and filleth men with the fruits.
So now, to fear the Lord is fullness of wisdom. When you fear the Most High God, that's the fullness of wisdom, because you understand the cause and effect. Okay, and he says, "And filleth man with her fruit," because the more you apply, the more you move in the spirit of meekness and fear. You understand, and humility to what the Lord commanded us to do. Guess what? The Lord will fill you with the fruit of His wisdom. You understand? Come on. Verse 17.
She filleth all their house with things desirable, and the garners with her increase.
You see that? She filleth all their house with things desirable. Because what are those things that are going to be desirable? What is that? Honor, integrity, understanding, knowledge of the scriptures. You understand? Being able to raise men and women in these truths to be able to apply God's commandments, teaching marriage, teaching family, how to raise up your children, how to be a wife, how to be a woman. You understand? How to be a sister in the truth, how to be a husband, how to be a father, how to be a brother, how to be a leader in the nation of Israel. You understand? Those are desirable things. You understand? Because guess what? That is the requirement for us to get the kingdom, to gather ourselves together, to gather people together in the spirit of Christ. One mind, one spirit, one judgment. You understand? Read that again, verse 17.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verse 17. She filleth all their house with things desirable, and the garners with the increase.
Come on.
The fear of the Lord is a crown of wisdom, making peace and perfect health to flourish.
Read.
Both which are the gift of God, and it enlargeth their rejoicing that love him.
You see that thing? The fear of the Lord is a crown of wisdom. When you fear the Most High God, you're going to get a crown of wisdom, making peace and perfect health to flourish. Because when you have that crown of wisdom, when you have that fear of the Lord, the Most High will bestow a crown of wisdom upon you. You're going to make peace and perfect health to flourish among brothers and sisters. You understand? Both which are the gifts of God. So, peace, perfect health, you understand? That is the gift of the Lord right there. And joy, that's the gift of the Most High God. So, in order for the Most High God to be able to bless us with the fruits of His wisdom, we need to fear Him. Guess what? We also, when we do that, the Lord will open His parables, His understanding unto us, His mysteries unto us, so we may be able to declare them to our children. Give me that in Psalm 78, verse 5. Actually, give me Psalm 78, verse 3. Psalm 78, verse 3. Read that very quick.
The book of Psalms, 78, verse 3. Which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us.
And our fathers have told us. Read on.
And will not hide them from their children, showing to the generation to come the praises of the Lord and his strength and his wonderful works that he hath done.
Come on.
For he established a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers that they should make them known to their children.
You see that thing? Our job is to command the laws of God to our children. But in order for the Most High to bestow that wisdom and understanding unto us, we need to fear him so the Lord can pour out his wisdom, his infinite wisdom in our spirit, so we can declare that wisdom to our children. And they will declare them to their children after them. Generational wealth of knowledge and understanding. That's how we're going to be able to be exalted above all nations on earth. We need to do those things first. Keeping of the commandments, the fear of the Most High God, so the Lord can exalt us from our low estate. You understand? Okay. Now, let's get into the book of Genesis now. I went all of that so that we can build up a case to understand that the Most High God, he will expound unto us his parables, his mysteries unto us, only if we are faithful to his word. We fear him. We move in the spirit of meekness. Okay? Watch this. Give me the book of Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1 verse 1. Let's start there. The book of Genesis chapter 1 verse 1.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 1.
Mhm.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
Read that again.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 1.
Read.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Now, give me John chapter 1, verse 1 real quick. John chapter 1, verse 1. It says, in the beginning. Now, this is the beginning of the creation account, the creation that we can see. Okay? John chapter 1, verse 1. Let's start this.
The book of John, chapter 1, verses 1.
Mhm.
In the beginning was the Word.
In the
And the
beginning,
word,
in the beginning was the Word. Remember, it says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So before he created the heaven and the earth, in the beginning was the Word. Okay, watch this. Come on.
the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
So in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same Word that created the heaven and the earth in Genesis 1 and 1, who is also called the Word. The same Word that was with God, the Most High. You understand? Read that again, verse 1. John 1 and 1.
The book of John, chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
Come on.
The same was in the beginning with God.
The same Word was in the beginning with God. Give me that in Revelation chapter 19, verse 13.
The book of Revelations, chapter 19, verses 13. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God.
His name is what? His name was called, then his name is called the Word of God. Read that again.
The book of Revelation, chapter 19, verses 13. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God.
His name is called the Word of God. Now watch this. Go back to John chapter 1. John chapter 1, verse 1 to verse 2 again.
The book of John, chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
Come on.
The same was in the beginning with God.
The same was in the beginning with God. Give me the book of Colossians chapter 1, verse 15. Colossians 1, verse 15.
The book of Colossians, chapter 1, verses 15.
Read.
Who is the image of the invisible God,
Mhm.
the firstborn of every creature?
The firstborn of every creature. This is talking about Christ. Christ is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature. Come on. That's why it says the same was in the beginning with God. Read.
For by him were all things created.
You see that thing? For by him were all things created. Watch this. Read on.
that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him.
You see that thing? All things were created by him and for him at the command of the Most High. You know?
And he is before all things, and by him all things consist.
All things were formed. He says, and he is before all things, and by him all things consist. Meaning all things were formed that you see, and the things that are invisible for us to see. Jump down to verse 19 now.
For it pleased the Father that in him should all fullness dwell.
You see that thing? It pleased the Most High that in him should all fullness dwell. Wisdom of Solomon 9, verse 9. Read that. This is talk about Jesus the Christ. This is Christ here. Okay?
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 4, verse 9.
No, chapter 9, verse 9. Wisdom of Solomon 9, verse 9.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 9, verse 9.
Come on.
And wisdom was with thee, which knoweth thy works,
Which does what?
and which knoweth thy works.
The wisdom is going into the Christ. Wisdom was with thee, which knoweth thy works, knoweth the Most High, the Father's works. Read.
And was present when thou madest the world,
Come on.
and knew what was acceptable in thy sight, and right in thy commandments.
And right in thy commandments. Okay, go back now to Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. Now that we have a picture of what it means when it says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, we understand what that means now. Okay, Genesis 1, verse 1.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 1.
Read.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
We know that was Christ. Read on, verse 2.
And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light.
Okay, so now, read up to verse 5. Then we're going to go back and we're going to take it slow.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 2. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day.
So now, let's read verse 2 again. Verse 2.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 2. And the earth was without form and void.
Stop right there.
And dark.
And the what?
And the earth was without form and void.
The earth was without form and void. The earth was without form and void. At this point, the earth wasn't created. You understand? The earth wasn't created at this point. But it says the earth was without form, meaning what? It didn't have any particular shape. It was in a form of what? That earth was in a form of elements. The earth was in a form of elements. Okay? It's going to come clearer as we read. But it says the earth was without form and void. Without form and void. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen real quick so we can understand. 1 second. Let me share my screen so we can all see what we are looking at. All right. Okay, so read that. The definition of form, read that.
The definition of the word form. Noun, shape. The visible shape. Noun, the visible shape or configuration of something.
You see that thing? It says the visible shape or configuration of something. Read Genesis chapter 1, verse 2 again.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 2. And the earth was without form and void.
Okay, the earth was without form and void. So it was without a visible shape or configuration. So you couldn't see it, but it was there in a form of what? It's going to become clear what form it was. You understand? It wasn't the secular shape that you see today. You understand? At this point in time of creation. You understand? So that's what it says. That's what it says. The earth was without. Okay? It was without form and void. It was without form and void. Okay, let me get the definition of void also. Okay. Yes, that's a better one. Okay, so let me share my screen one more again. One more time, let me share my screen. Okay. 1 second. Give me a second, brothers and sisters. All right. There we go. Okay, read that. Read the second definition.
The definition of the word void, completely empty.
Completely empty is that the earth was without form, meaning without any visible shape or configuration, Then it says, and void, meaning what? Completely empty. So the earth was completely empty and without any visible shape or configuration. So let's read the synonyms. Read that.
Empty,
Mm-hmm.
emptied, vacant, without contents,
Without content, read.
containing nothing,
Containing nothing.
blank, bare, clear,
Read that part.
unfilled.
Unfilled. Now watch this. Read the next definition now. Now, this one.
The definition of the word void, noun, a
Uh-huh.
completely empty space.
A completely empty space. Read that again.
The word void, noun, a completely empty space.
A completely empty space. That's why even in science they say no, in empty space, in outer space. Okay, that's the void is making reference to. Gap. Okay, read the synonyms.
Gap, space, vacuum,
Vacuum.
nothingness,
Nothingness. Nothingness. Okay, nothingness. So now go back to Genesis now, chapter 1, verse 2 again. Genesis
the book of
chapter 1, verse
Genesis,
2.
chapter 1, verse 2.
Mhm.
And the earth was without form and void.
So now we understand what that means. The earth was without form. The earth was without any visible shape or configuration, and void, empty space, nothingness. All right? Read on now.
And darkness was upon the face of the deep.
And darkness was upon the face of the deep. Darkness was upon the face of the deep. So it was darkness. So the beginning was darkness. It began with darkness. You understand? That's why in science they say dark matter. Okay, dark matter. In theoretical physics. In theoretical physics, they mention things like dark matter. Okay, read that again. And what? And darkness.
And the spirit of and darkness was upon the face of the deep.
So now it says, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. So when they say dark matter, but we know matter is anything that occupies space. You understand? So there is matter, but it's just that you can't see. It wasn't anything visible, meaning in terms of a shape or whatever. It wasn't like that. That's why it says, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. The deep is making reference to deep space. That's what they call it today, deep space. Okay? Let's deal with that darkness for a second. Give me that in 2nd Ezra chapter 6. 2nd Ezra chapter 6. Brothers and sisters, let me know if I'm going too fast, okay? 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and verse 38. Read that.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verses 38.
Come on.
And I said, O Lord, thou spakest from the beginning of the creation, even the first day, and said thus, let heaven and earth be made, and thy word was a perfect work.
And thy word was a perfect work. So Ezra is rehashing the creation account. Read on.
And then was the spirit, and darkness, and silence were on every side.
Come on.
The sound of man's voice was not yet formed.
The sound of man's voice was not yet formed. So this darkness, it says there was darkness and silence. Where on darkness and silence was on every side. It says, and then was the spirit. The spirit. You see, okay, let me just admit that spirit today in the Esau calls it energy. Esau calls it energy, but the Bible is that's the spirit of the Lord. You understand? That's the spirit of the Most High God. Go back to Genesis now, chapter 1, verse 2 again.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 2. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters.
So now we explained that it says, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. The deep is making reference to deep space. This darkness is what they call it in science, they call it dark matter in theoretical physics and all that. Okay. So now it says, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. What is the Spirit of God? Give me that in John 6:63. John chapter 6, verse 63. The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters.
The book of John, chapter 6, verses 53. Then Jesus said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, except ye eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood.
No, John 6, verse 53.
The book of John, chapter 6, verses 63.
Come on.
It is the spirit that quickeneth. The flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life.
The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. They are spirit and they are life. Go back to Genesis 1, verse 2 again.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verses 2. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters.
And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. So now, what I want to show you is Acts 1, verse 8. Read that.
The book of Acts, chapter 1, verse 8. But ye shall receive power, and after the Holy Ghost is come upon you.
Okay, read that again. Read it again. Verse 8.
The book of Acts, chapter 1, verse 8.
Come on.
But ye shall receive power.
Ye shall what?
Receive power.
Ye shall receive power. Ye shall receive power. Come on.
After that, the Holy Ghost is come upon you.
So this power is the Holy Ghost. Okay. This power right here is the same power that the apostles had to heal the people, to heal the sick, to raise the dead, so on and so forth. Okay. That's the power is making reference to here. Whether we're healing the sick and raising the dead, like the apostle Peter did with our foremother Dorcas. You understand? Read that again, verse 8.
The book of Acts, chapter 1, verse 8. But ye shall receive power. After that, the Holy Ghost is come upon you.
So you shall receive power. After that, the Holy Ghost is come upon you. This power right here, go back now. Genesis 1. Genesis chapter 1, verse 2.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 2. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters.
And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. The power of God moved upon the face of the waters. That's his spirit, his power moved upon the face of the waters. Now watch this. At this point, these waters is not actually talking about literal water in the form of you seeing water in a cup. He's not talking about that in that form. All right? Watch this. Give me the book of Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7 verse 17. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7 verse 17.
Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7 verses 19.
17 verse 17. 7 verse 17. Come on.
Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7 verses 17.
Read.
For he hath given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely, to know how the world was made, and the operation of the elements.
So now King Solomon, he was given the greatest wisdom on earth. You understand? It says the Lord is professing the mercy that the Lord had on him, of the wisdom that he bestowed on him. That wisdom, it says, he's given him such a knowledge of the things that are. Namely, he's going to give you those things to know how the world was made, meaning Genesis, the creation account, and the operation of the elements. How the element was manipulated to form the things that you and I can see. Those elements, guess what? Watch this. I know I'm jumping ahead, but you know what? Go back to Genesis 1, Genesis chapter 1, and verse 2 again. I'm going to read 2, then I'm going to pass 2. Okay? There's something I want to do. I'm going to go back to this. Genesis 1, Genesis chapter 1, verse 2 again.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 2.
Mhm.
And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters.
And the power of the Most High moved upon the face of the waters. We want to come back to those waters, you know?
And God said, let there be light, and there was light.
Let there be light, and there was light. Watch this, you know?
And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness.
So now remember, now the sun was not created on the first day. The sun was created on the fourth day. So at this point, the Most High God, remember, it started as darkness. It's darkness. So now the Most High God is separating the darkness. That was the beginning. He's going to separate that darkness by creating light to separate the darkness with the light that he will create. All right. So now it says, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. Now watch this. Give me the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 6. Give me 2nd Ezra. We're gonna go back to Wisdom of Solomon, but I'm gonna use this route so that brothers and sisters can get it. 2nd Ezra chapter 6. Read verse 39. Okay, 2nd Ezra 6, verse 39. Watch this.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verses 39.
Come on.
And then was the Spirit, and darkness and silence were on every side. On the sound of man's voice, the sound of man's voice was not yet formed.
Read.
Then commandest thou a fair light to come forth of thy treasures,
Read.
that thy work might appear.
So now this is on the first day. So what we are reading here in Ezra is the same thing that Moses is explaining. Okay. So read verse 40 again.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 40. Then commandest thou a fair light to come forth of thy treasures,
Read.
that thy work might appear.
So now on the first day, you remember it says, let there be light. Go back to Genesis chapter 1, verse 3. Genesis chapter 1, verse 3.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 3.
Read.
And God said, let there be light, and there was light.
It says, God said, let there be light, and there was light. Read on, verse 4.
And God saw that the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness.
So this light is coming from what? Go back to 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse 40, so we don't lose the thought. Okay?
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 40. Then commandest thou a fair light to come forth of thy treasures,
Read.
that thy work might appear.
So this light is not the type of light that we read about on the fourth day, when the sun was created, the moon, and so forth. No, it says this was a fair light. This fair light was coming from the treasure. What are these treasures? Go back to Wisdom of Solomon now. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7, verse 17. Let's find out what these treasures are, where this fair light is coming from. This fair light is emanating, was created off of these treasures. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7, verse 17.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 17.
Come on.
For he hath given me certain knowledge of things that are, namely, to know how the world was made, and the operation of the elements.
And the operation of the elements. Those elements are those treasures in 2nd Ezra. The elements are the treasures in 2nd Ezra. What are these elements? What are they called today? They're called the periodic table of elements. The periodic table of elements. Okay, let me share my screen real quick so we can see that. These treasures, which are elements, is called the periodic table of elements today. All right, that's where they get it from. Actually, that's where Esau gets it from. That's the periodic table of elements. Read that again, Wisdom of Solomon 7 verse 17.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 17.
Uh-huh.
For he had given me certain knowledge of things that are, namely, to know how the world was made and the operation of the elements.
These are the elements is making reference to. These elements right here, what you see here. So those of you that have done physics and chemistry and all of that, this should be familiar to you. Okay, this is the periodic table of elements. So now the treasures, the fair light, the fair light, which is the same light that we read about in Genesis 1 verse 3 and 4, is coming from these elements right here. What happened? The element was manipulated for the light to come forth. Now, go back to Genesis chapter 1, verse 2 now. Because I wanted to go back there so we can understand. Okay? Genesis chapter 1, verse 2.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 2. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters.
You see now it says the Spirit of God, means the power of God moved upon the face of the waters. So now these waters, they are in the form of elements. Okay? The waters here is in form of elements. The oceans are not created yet. You understand? They are in the form of elements. So now when you look at the periodic table of elements, that element right there, that's oxygen. You see that thing? Where's that hydrogen?
Be number 1.
It's supposed to be here, right? Let me look at this.
Yes, sir.
There it is right there. That's hydrogen. That's oxygen. Okay? So these are the elements that have formed the waters. But the waters were in a form of these elements that you see here. Hydrogen and oxygen. 2-part hydrogen and 1 oxygen. All right? Now, I want you to read this thing. Read that.
How to make water from hydrogen and oxygen.
How to make water from hydrogen and oxygen. All right? Okay. So now read that. The first paragraph.
Water is the common name of hydrogen monoxide.
No, read that again. Read it right.
Water is the common name for dihydrogen monoxide. Or H2O.
Or H2O. 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen. When you fuse them together, they form what is called today water that you can put in a bottle. Okay? But in Genesis 1 verse 2, it was not in the form of water in a cup that you see. It was in a form of what? It was in a form of elements, the operation of elements. The fair light that came forth, it was also by the manipulation of elements. The operation or manipulation of those elements created the fair light. You understand? Okay? Okay, so read on now. The molecule.
The molecule is produced from numerous chemical reactions, including the synthesis reaction from its elements, hydrogen and oxygen.
Come on.
The balanced chemical equation for the reaction is
yes, whatever.
2H.
Come on. How to make water?
How to make water? In theory, it is easy to make water from hydrogen gas and oxygen gas.
So, hold on. In theory, it's easy to make water from hydrogen gas and oxygen gas. Actually, you know what? Read that formula out. Read that whole thing. Then we're going to read the next paragraph.
The balanced chemical equation for the reaction is 2 hydrogen molecules plus
1 oxygen.
Plus 1 oxygen is equals to,
which yields 2-part hydrogen, 1 oxygen, which today we call it water. Okay, next paragraph. Start with the heading.
In theory, how to make water?
Come on.
In theory, it is easy to make water from hydrogen gas and oxygen gas.
Okay, so these hold on. These are, so hydrogen is a gas, oxygen is a gas. Read on.
Mix the two gases together and a spark or
Add. Add. Pay attention. Come on.
mix the two gases together. Add a spark or sufficient heat to provide the activation energy
Come on.
to start the reaction. And presto, instant water.
Stop right there. Read that part again. Mix the what?
Mix the two gases together. Add a spark or sufficient heat to provide the activation energy to start the reaction, and presto, instant water.
So now remember that word, activation energy, right? Okay. So now, keep reading. Merely mixing.
Merely mixing the two gases at room temperature, however, won't do anything.
Come on.
Like hydrogen and oxygen molecules in air don't spontaneously form water.
Read.
Energy
Come on.
must be supplied to break the covalent bonds that hold hydrogen and oxygen molecules together.
You see that thing? It says it requires what? Energy. Energy is needed in order for these two molecules to bond to create water. Read on. The hydrogen
cations,
the hydrogen
cations and the oxygen anions are then free to react with each other, which they do because of their electronegativity differences.
Read.
When the chemical bonds reform to make water, additional energy is released, which propagates the reaction.
Read.
The net reaction is highly exothermic, meaning a reaction that is accompanied by the release of heat.
Now stop right there. Go back to Genesis now, chapter 1, verse 2. Watch this thing.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 2.
Read.
And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters.
And the what?
And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters.
And the Spirit of God. Go back to Acts chapter 1, verse 8. Acts 1, verse 8.
The book of Acts chapter 1, verse 8. But ye shall receive power.
Ye shall what?
But ye shall receive power. After that, the Holy Ghost has come upon you.
The Holy Ghost is the Spirit of God. That's power right there. Go back to Genesis 1 now, verse 2.
The book of Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God
and the power of God, come on,
moved upon the face of the waters.
That's when the element was being manipulated. You understand? The manipulation of those elements requires what? Power, energy. Esau calls it energy. The Bible calls it the Holy Ghost. Power. The Spirit of the Most High God is capable of manipulating the elements. You understand? So when it says the waters here, it's talking about those elements, those treasures. You understand where the fair light came from, where the waters are being referred. Okay? Genesis chapter 1 now, verse 3, we're going to read that. Come on.
The book of Genesis chapter 1, verse 3. And God said, let there be light, and there was light.
Read.
And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness.
Read on.
And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day.
So the first day, this is what happened. Okay? The Spirit of God, the power of the Most High God moved upon the face of the waters. These waters, think of them as oxygen, hydrogen. All right? And God said, let there be light, and there was light. This light is also what? Manipulation of elements so that illumination can appear to separate darkness from the light that has just been made, from the treasure or the elements. Okay? Then it says, and God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. Read verse 5 again.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 5. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day.
So now notice here that day is not determined by the sun, because the sun was created on the fourth day. But here they're already talking about day and night. Okay? So day is what? The light that you see. Darkness is the night. Okay? Is not determined by the sun according to what we're reading. Because the sun was created on the fourth day. This is the first day here. You understand? This is the first day of creation. Read on now, verse 6.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 6. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters,
Read.
and let it divide the waters from the waters.
You see that thing? Now you understand what these waters are. It says, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. So this firmament that was created divided the waters, meaning the elements, one element on one side, the other element on another side. So the firmament separated the waters from the waters in the form of elements. So this firmament, okay, the firmament. Read verse 6 again.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 6. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters.
Come on.
And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so.
So now imagine, okay, let's see what this firmament is that is being referred here. Okay, so the firmament is called the ozone layer. That's the firmament. The firmament is the ozone layer. You see what you see right there? The ozone layer. This is the firmament right there. This is the firmament, the ozone layer. All right? The ozone layer is the firmament. So imagine the Lord separated. So this is the ozone layer. Let me just use this one. You see that thing right there? That right there is the ozone layer. So now imagine this is not there yet, okay? The actual earth. The earth is not created, is still form and void, without form, without void, emptiness. But now the Lord, he manipulates the element to create the firmament, which is the ozone layer. This is the firmament. So there was the waters outside of the firmament. Think of this as the waters, you understand, in the form of what? In the form of elements. The deep, dark matter. You see that thing? Darkness, dark matter. That's dark matter right there. So the element outside of the firmament and the element inside of the firmament, without the earth being created at this point, because it wasn't created at that point. All right. Now, give me 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse 41. 2nd Ezra 6, verse 41.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verses 41.
Come on.
Upon the second day, thou madest the spirit of the firmament.
Thou did what?
Upon the second day, thou madest the spirit of the firmament.
So the ozone layer has a spirit. The ozone layer has a spirit. So pay attention to, don't forget that point. Upon the second day, thou madest the spirit of the firmament. Read on.
And commandest it to part asunder,
Mhm.
and to make a division betwixt the waters, that the one part might go up, and the other part remaineth beneath.
You see that thing? The other part of the waters will be what? Will be above, and the other part will be beneath. Inside the firmament, outside of the firmament. All right? Which is what? The ozone layer. This right here, that's the ozone layer right there. Now watch this thing. Let's see. Okay. So we're not going to read the whole thing, but I just want to touch on a few things. Read that. This is Wikipedia, the ozone layer.
The ozone layer.
Mhm.
The ozone layer or ozone shield is a region of Earth's stratosphere that absorbs most of the sun's ultraviolet radiation.
Ultraviolet radiation. So the ozone layer is what? The job of the ozone layer is to what? Is to block UV radiation, ultraviolet light that is coming from the sun. Okay. And how does the ozone layer know how to regulate the amount of radiation that is coming inside the earth? How does it know that? Go back to 2nd Ezra 6 verse 41. Read that thing.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 41. Upon the second day, thou madest the spirit of the firmament.
Stop right there.
And
Hold on. Thou madest the spirit of the firmament. The firmament has a spirit. The spirit of the Most High God is inside the firmament. Watch this. Give me Wisdom of Solomon 7. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7 verse 24. Watch this.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verses 24.
Read.
For wisdom is more moving than any motion.
Wisdom, the spirit of the Most High God. Come on.
She passeth and goeth through all things by reason of her pureness.
She passeth and goeth through all things by reason of her pureness. Watch this. Come on. Read on.
Flow, for
Verse
she is
25.
the breath. For she is the breath of the power of God.
So this wisdom that goeth through all things by reason of her pureness, she is the breath of the power of God, the power of the Most High God. Okay. So now read that article again. Go back to Wikipedia. Start from the beginning.
The ozone layer. The ozone layer or ozone shield is a region of the Earth's stratosphere that absorbs most of the sun's ultraviolet radiation.
Read.
It contains a high concentration of ozone in relation of ozone O3 in relation to other parts of the atmosphere. Although still small in relation to other gases in the stratosphere.
In the what?
In the stratosphere.
Let's see what this is. The stratosphere. See that? That's the stratosphere right there. That is the stratosphere. We have the troposphere. We did this back in the day when I was still in high school. Okay. Then you have the stratosphere. All right. Okay. Go back to where was it? Hold on. Okay. Read from the ozone layer.
The ozone layer or ozone shield is a region of Earth's stratosphere that absorbs most of the sun's ultraviolet radiation.
So now, the ozone layer's job is to what? Is to protect, is to cover the earth. You understand? What's going to ultimately be the earth inside the firmament, because the Lord calls it the firmament. Let me just switch on the light. Okay, so the ozone layer, like I was saying, the ozone layer is the firmament that we read about in Genesis 1. Okay, the ozone layer. So this ozone layer is the one that separates the waters from above, outside of the firmament, and the waters from within or beneath the firmament. Okay, which will ultimately be our dwelling place, the earth. All right. So now go back to Genesis now. Genesis, you can read the whole thing on your own. Go to Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1 and verse 6 again. Genesis 1 verse 6.
The book of Genesis chapter 1 verse 6.
Mm-hmm.
And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters.
Let it divide the waters from the waters. So you saw the firmament dividing the waters outside and the waters beneath or inside. Read.
And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so.
Read.
And God called the firmament heaven.
What did he call it?
God called the firmament heaven.
God called the firmament heaven. Read on.
And the evening and the morning were the second day.
So now this is the second day of creation, where the firmament was created, which is called the ozone layer, to separate the waters from inside and the waters from outside. You understand? That happened on the second day. This firmament was called heaven. You understand? That ozone layer out there, that ozone layer that goes into what? Space now. It goes into outer space. All right? Now we talk about our inside our atmosphere and outside our atmosphere. All right? Read on, verse 9.
And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so.
Read verse 9 again. Now this is the third day. Come on.
The book of Genesis chapter 1 verse 9. And the Lord said, let the waters upon the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so.
So now watch this thing. You see when it says, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. Watch this. Next verse. Verse 10.
And God called the dry land earth.
What did he call it?
God called the dry land earth.
God called the dry land earth. Earth. Come on.
And the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good.
So now, watch this. You see verse 10. It says, God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. How did this happen? Watch this thing. Give me the book of 2nd Ezra. Wisdom of Solomon 7 verse 17 again. Because now remember now, we see on the third day, these waters now, when it says he gathered the waters together in one place and he later called them seas, the dry land he called it earth, that's when now the elements were being manipulated to cause or to form the actual waters that you see upon the seas. You understand? The oceans, the Atlantic Ocean, you understand, and so forth, the Persian Gulf and all of that. Yes. The Indian Ocean, so on and so forth. Okay? Wisdom of Solomon 7 verse 17. Read that.
Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7 verse 17. For he had given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely, to know how the world was made and the operation of the elements.
And the operation of the elements. So the elements were manipulated to form water. The water that you see that is filled the seas, yes, that's what the Lord did. The manipulation of elements, the operation of elements, those treasures, manipulation of treasures, because what? They need power. The power of the Lord, the Spirit of God moved upon them so that the seas that you see today can be formed. Okay? Go back to Genesis chapter 1 now. Genesis 1 verse 9. One more again.
The book of Genesis chapter 1 verse 9. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear.
And let the dry land appear. So he's separating the waters now. Remember now, this is under the heaven. It says, let the waters under the heaven, meaning what? Meaning where? Under the firmament. That ozone layer. Under the firmament, under the ozone layer, okay? Be gathered together unto one place, let the dry land appear, and it was so. Read verse 10.
And God called the dry land earth.
God called the dry land earth. Earth. Let's go back to the picture so you can see it now. Okay. So now, what you're looking at here now, read verse 10 again so we can read 9 and 10 together so we can see what we're looking at. Okay.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 9.
Read.
And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place.
Stop right
and let
there.
the dry
Hold on. Let the what?
Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place.
So now, this waters under the heaven, what is this heaven called? Jump up to verse 8.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 8. And God called the firmament heaven.
What did he call it?
The firmament heaven.
God called the firmament heaven. Jump down to verse 9 again.
And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place.
Let the waters under the firmament, which is called heaven, be gathered together unto one place. So this is now under the firmament. Okay, watch this. Read on.
And let the dry land appear.
Let the dry land appear. Hold on. Let the dry land appear. Read on.
And it was so.
Read.
And God called the dry land earth.
Stop right there. What did God call the dry land?
God called the dry land earth.
That's the dry land. You see that part right there? You see that? Today they are called continents. That is the dry land that you are looking at right there. You understand? This is the dry land right here. This is the dry land. Okay, watch the next part now. He called the dry land earth, right? Come on. Come on.
And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called the seas.
Stop right there. You see that? You see that part? Though that's the sea. That is the waters right there. That is the water. You see, the water is more in actual fact. You understand? It's more. Okay, read that part again. Verse 10.
And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called the seas. And God saw that it was good.
Now, watch this. You see, like the earth. Okay, give me the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 22, real quick. Because now you see it's round now. Now it is with form. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, it was without form. At this point, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 10, the earth has form. It has got form now. Give me that in Isaiah 40, verse 22. Watch this.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verses 22.
Come on.
He that sitteth upon the circle of the earth.
He that what?
It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth.
It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth. You see now we understand why it's a circle, because the Lord made it so. But what day was this? Was on the third day. Okay? It was on the third day. Read that part again, verse 22.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 22. It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers.
Read.
That stretched out the heavens as a curtain.
As a what?
As a curtain.
You see that thing right there? The heaven. You see that thing, that ozone layer? It's like a curtain over the earth. It's like a curtain. He says he stretches out the heavens as a curtain. That's the atmosphere. That's the ozone layer. Okay, that ozone layer, that's the curtain over us. The Lord did that thing. Read.
That stretched out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in.
As a what?
As a tent to dwell in.
As a tent to dwell in. So now this curtain, this ozone layer, is a curtain, and it's a tent for us to dwell inside of it. Now the earth is with form. The earth has form now. It's a circle. You understand? It's a circle. Watch this. Give me
the book of Job, chapter 26, verses 7. He stretched out the north. He stretched out the north over the empty place, and hangeth the earth upon nothing.
And what?
And hangeth the earth upon nothing.
And hangeth the earth upon nothing. Look at that picture right there. The earth is sitting on nothing. Who's holding it up? The Lord is doing that thing. Okay? That round circle that you see called earth, the dry land, the Most High God is hanging it upon nothing. The Spirit of the Most High God is holding the earth in the state that it's in. You understand? Read that again. Verse 7.
The book of Job, chapter 26, verse 7. He stretched out the north over the empty place, and he hangeth the earth upon nothing.
And the earth is hanging upon nothing. Watch this. Let's go to the book of Psalms. I'm going to give the book of Proverbs. Give me Proverbs real quick. Proverbs chapter 8. Proverbs chapter 8 and verse, let me look at it. Maybe I can write this down. Proverbs chapter 8 and verse 24. Start there.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 8, verse 24. When there were no depths, I was brought forth. When there were no fountains abounding with water.
When there were no fountains abounding with, when there were no depths, I was brought forth. When there were no fountains abounding with water. Because remember, these fountains abounding with water, when were they formed? The third day, where the Lord gathered the waters together and he called them seas. Okay, that was on the third day. All right, read on.
Before the mountains were settled, before the hills was I brought forth.
Now jump down to verse 27, because this is really what I want. Come on.
When he prepared the heavens.
When he did what?
Prepared the heavens.
When he prepared the heavens. So let's say the ozone layer, okay? The ozone layer, which is the firmament, which is called heaven. You understand? And then underneath that, our atmosphere, our sky, that's also heaven. You understand? Read. I'm just dealing with within our realm. Okay, within our realm, underneath the firmament. Read. Come on.
Well, as when he prepared the heavens, I was there. When he set a compass upon the face of the depth.
Okay, now read verse 27 again. One more again.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 8, verse 27. When he prepared the heavens, I was there. When he set a compass upon the face of the depth.
Come on, read.
When he established the clouds above.
Hold on. Wait. I'm sorry. Read verse 27 again.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 8, verse 27.
Come on.
When he prepared the heavens, I was there. When he set a compass upon the face of the depth.
Now, watch this. Let me share my screen so we can see what a compass is, because this will destroy those dumb doctrine that people say, no, the earth is flat. The hell is this? Okay. Definition say compass.
Definition of the word compass. Now.
Okay. Now let's see. Arcade. We want the arcade definition. Read that.
Archaic definition of the word compass. Verb. Go around something.
Go around.
Go around something in a circular course.
In a what?
In a secular course.
In a secular course. In a secular course. Secular. A circle. Okay. Read that again. Proverbs 8:27 now.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 8, verse 27.
Read.
When he prepared the heavens, I was there. When he set a compass upon the face of the depth.
When he set a compass upon the face of the depth. You understand? A compass is a secular shape. Now the earth has got form. It does not have void. It's got form now. You can see the shape of it. It's not without form and without void, but it's got form now. You understand? And it's not void anymore because there's oceans now in the earth. Okay? Now, let's go back. Now go back to Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1, verse 9 and 10. Again.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 9. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so.
Read.
And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called the seas.
Read.
And God saw that it was good.
Okay, what verse you at? Verse 10, right?
10, sir.
Okay, now, hold this. Give me second Ezra now. We coming back here. Give me second Ezra chapter 6, verse 42. Second Ezra chapter 6, verse 42. Watch this thing. We're still dealing with the third day. The third day, okay?
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verses 42.
Read.
Upon the third day, thou didst command the waters, that the waters should be gathered in the seventh part of the earth.
On the seventh part of the earth, read on.
6 parts hast thou dried up and kept them, to the intent that of these some being planted of God and tilled might serve thee.
Some being planted of God and tilled might serve thee. That goes into the grass and all of that stuff. But what we want to deal with is that the seventh part was holding the water, and the dry land was the dry land. The sixth part was the dry land. Okay? Read on. So, all this, go back to Genesis 1. So, I need you brothers to pay attention now. Genesis chapter 1, verse 9.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 9.
Wait, can you
And
brothers,
God said,
hold on, can anybody hear me correctly? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay.
Yes,
Okay, Genesis 1, verse 9. Come on.
the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 9. And God
Read.
said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place.
So,
And
it says, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place. That's the seventh part in 2nd Ezra 6, verse 42. Okay, read that again, verse 9.
the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 9. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place.
So that's the seventh part. Read.
And let the dry land appear. And it was so.
So the dry land is the sixth part. The dry land is the sixth part. If you notice, the water, where the water is gathered is more than the dry land. You understand? That's why you see the where the water is, it says the seventh part, and where the dry land is, it says the sixth part, because they are not the same. They are not in like manner. Okay? Watch this. Keep reading. Let me see. Go back to 2nd Ezra 6, verse 42 again.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 42.
Mhm.
Upon the third day, thou didst command that the waters should be gathered in the seventh part of the earth. 6 parts hast thou dried up and kept them, to the intent that of these some being planted of God and tilled might serve thee.
Read on.
For as soon as thy word went forth, the work was made.
As soon as the word of the Most High God went forth, the work was created. Read on.
For immediately there was great and innumerable fruit and many and diverse pleasures for the taste,
Come on.
and the flowers of unchangeable color,
Uh-huh.
and odors of wonderful smell.
Read.
This was done the third day.
So this was done the third day. So the fruit, the diverse pleasures of taste, flowers of unchangeable color, odors of wonderful smell, they were created the third day. Let's get some more details on that thing. Go back to Genesis now, chapter 1, verse 11. Genesis chapter 1, verse 11.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 11. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass, and the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind.
Okay, read that part again. And the what?
And the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind,
Read.
whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so.
On the sixth part. So on that sixth part, this is what was put on it. The things that the Lord planted. If you read 2nd Ezra 6:42, it says, to the intent that of these some being planted of God and tilled might serve thee. Verse 11 again.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 11. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass and the herb yielding seed,
Read.
and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so.
Next verse.
And the earth brought forth grass and herb, and the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind, and God saw that it was good.
So now, all of these things that are created, there's different species that have been created of plants, you understand, of fruit and vegetables and so forth, okay, of different species. That's what it says after his kind. Next verse, verse 13.
And the evening and the morning were the third day.
The evening and the morning were the third day. So this was done the third day. Okay? Now give me Genesis chapter 1, verse 14 now. Let's go to the fourth day of creation.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 14. And God said, let there be light in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night. And let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years.
So now, on this day, this is the fourth day now. There's lights that are being created now. Not the third light that we read in 2nd Ezra. Because some of you might have forgot that. Go back to 2nd Ezra 6, verse 40 again. 2nd Ezra 6, verse 40.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 40. Then commandest thou a fair light to come forth of thy treasures, that thy work might appear.
You understand? So it's not talking about that now. On this day, on the fourth day, now the sun, the moon, and stars will be created. Okay? This is now outside of the firmament. Okay? It's not inside the firmament, it's outside. Because the sun, moon, and stars is not inside our sky, it's outside the ozone layer. You understand? Go back to Genesis now 1, Genesis chapter 1, verse 14.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 14.
Mm-hmm.
And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years.
Stop right there. Give me the book of Revelation real quick. Something I want to explain this. Okay? The one. Okay, no, I don't need to go there. Okay, this is sufficient. Okay, this is sufficient. Give me 2nd Ezra. Let me see if I want to go to 2nd Ezra now. You know what? Read on. Verse 15. Not yet.
Book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 15. And God said, let there be light in the firmament of the heaven to divide the night, to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years.
So now you've got the light in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night. Okay, so this firmament right here is the firmament outside. This is outside the firmament. It's not inside the firmament. Remember, go back to Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1 and verse 7.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 7. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so.
So now we are dealing with the waters that are above the firmament. Okay? Now go back. Genesis chapter 1, verse 14 again.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 14. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years.
Read.
And let them be for light in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth, and it was so.
You see that thing? So these lights, they are outside of the firmament. Okay, it's not inside our atmosphere, it's outside to give light upon the earth. So they are outside to give light on the earth. Okay, read.
And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also.
Read.
And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth.
So the Most High God set the sun, the moon, and the stars in the firmament of heaven. Okay? Not inside our sky, but outside. Read.
And to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good.
Okay, now watch this. Give me 2nd Ezra 6 verse 45. 2nd Ezra 6 verse 45. Remember, this is the fourth day. Now, these great lights that are being created, you understand? The greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. And he also made the stars. Okay? 2nd Ezra chapter 6 verse 45. Read that.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 45. Upon the fourth day, thou commandest that the sun should shine, and the moon give a light, and the stars should be in order.
Now watch this. Notice something here. Go back to Genesis 1 verse 14. Watch this thing.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 14. And God said, let there be light in the firmament of heaven, to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days and years.
Now read verse 16.
And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also.
So he doesn't tell you the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He doesn't tell you what they are. He doesn't give you the names of them. He doesn't give you the names of those ordinances. Go back to 2nd Ezra now 6, verse 45. Ezra is going to give you the names of those lights. Okay? 2nd Ezra 6, verse 45. Read that.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 45. Upon the fourth day, thou commandest that the sun should shine.
The what?
And that the sun should shine.
The sun should shine, the greater light to rule the day. Read on.
And the moon give a light.
The lesser light to rule the night. Read.
And the stars should be in order.
And he made the stars also. Read on. Verse 46.
And gave us them a charge to do service unto man that was to be made.
You see that thing? And gave them a charge, meaning what? A law to do service unto men that was to be made. Because man was created when? The sixth day of creation. Okay, give me Sirach 43 verse 1. Sirach chapter 43 verse 1. Okay. Now this is the fourth day of creation. Sirach 43 verse 1. Let's get some more on this. Okay.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 43, verse 1.
Read.
The pride of the height, the clear firmament, the beauty of heaven, with his glorious show.
With his glorious show. So the clear firmament, why does it say clear firmament? Hold on. Okay. Read the definition of void. That's void right there. I want this definition. Second definition. Read that.
The definition of the word void. Adjective. Completely empty.
Completely empty. Now let's read the synonyms. Read that.
Empty. Clear.
What did it say?
Clear.
Go back to Sirach 43 verse 1.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 43 verse 1. The pride of the height, the clear firmament.
The clear firmament. So where is this making reference to? Space. Okay? Outside the ozone layer. That's space. Verse 1 again. One more again.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 43 verse 1. The pride of the height, the clear firmament, the beauty of heaven with his glorious show.
So it's letting you know where which heaven this is. The firmament outside of our sky. Okay? You understand? Read. Watch this. It's gonna tell you what's in that space. That's the deep space or empty space. They're gonna tell you what's in there. Okay, verse 2 is gonna tell you that. Read.
The sun when it appeareth.
You see that thing? The sun is in that realm now. Okay, read.
Declaring at his rising a marvelous instrument, the work of the Most High.
The work of the Most High God. Come on.
At noon it parcheth the country.
Mhm.
Who can abide the burning heat thereof?
Who can abide the burning heat of the sun thereof? Read on.
A man blowing a furnace is in the works of heat, but the sun burneth the mountains 3 times more,
Come on.
breathing out fiery vapors.
Stop right
and
there.
sending,
Hold on. Doing what?
breathing out fiery vapors.
Those fiery vapors, they also goes into what? The sunbeams. You understand? The ultraviolet radiation that comes from the sun. And which element protects us? The ozone layer protects us from these fiery beams. The ozone layer protects us from that thing. Because the ozone layer has a spirit to be able to filter out the sun rays that we're supposed to receive to benefit from and those that are not good for us. You understand? Read that again. Verse 4.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 43, verse 4. A man blowing a furnace is in works of heat, but the sun burneth the mountains 3 times more, breathing out fiery vapors.
Read.
And sending forth bright beams.
Sending forth bright beams. Come on.
It dimmeth the eyes.
How do you think the white man knows how to create sunglasses that can prevent your eyes from catching UV light? How do they know that? They are getting it right here. It says, breathing out fiery vapors and sending forth bright beams, it dimmeth the eye. It dimmeth the eye. That's why when you buy sunglasses, you see there's a UV sticker on it. UV, ultraviolet radiation. You understand? Come on, verse 5.
Great is the Lord that made it, and at his commandment runneth hastily.
You see that thing? At his commandment it runneth hastily. Letting you know what? It's letting you know that the sun is in motion. The sun rotates. That's what it says, it runneth hastily. The sun is in motion. The sun is the one that does the rotating. The earth remains still, the sun does the rotating, not the other way around. Because today they say the earth rotates around the sun. That's not biblical. This is the Most High science is the sun rotates, the earth stands still. Esau's witchcraft says the sun is standing still and the earth rotates around the sun. That's not biblical. Even when you look at satellites, why would a satellite need to rotate around the earth? I get if the earth is rotating, why would the satellite need to be rotating? Why would you need to do that? Because they know, but they are pushing garbage out. Read verse 5, verse 4 again.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 43, verse 5. Great is the Lord that made it, and his commandment, and at his commandment runneth hastily.
Read.
He made the moon also to serve in her season, for a declaration of times and a sign of the world.
A sign of the world, meaning what? Because the moon, it helps us to be able to do what? To understand the feasts in their season. For us to observe the high holidays, the feasts in their season, or seasonal feasts in their proper time. Okay? That's what the moon does. If you read Psalm 104 and Genesis chapter 1, it says that also. Come on, verse 7. Verse 7 again.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 43, verse 7. From the moon is the sign of feasts, a light that decreaseth in her perfection.
Because on the fourth day, when the moon was created, guess what? When the moon was created on the fourth day, go back to 2nd Ezra 6. We're coming back here. So hold the rat, don't close it. 2nd Ezra chapter 6. 2nd Ezra 6 and verse 45.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 45. Upon the fourth day, thou commandest that the sun should shine, and the moon give her light.
And the what?
And the moon give her light.
So on the fourth day, the moon was commanded to give her light. Meaning what? It was full. The moon was full, okay? That was the new moon, because that's when it was created, on the fourth day. All right, go back. Ecclesiasticus 43, verse 7.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 43, verse 7. From the moon is the sign of feasts, a light that decreaseth in her perfection.
Okay, read that again.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 43, verse 7. From the moon is the sign of feasts, a light that decreaseth in her perfection.
A light that decreases in her perfection. Read on.
The month is called after her name.
The month is called after her name. The word month is called, comes from the word moon. Read.
The month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing.
Because the moon starts off as full. On the fourth day, it was full. Then it decreases. Then it increases. Read on.
Increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above.
Read.
Shining the firmament of heaven.
Shining in the firmament of heaven. The clearness, that empty space, that's where they sit. Okay, read.
The beauty of heaven, the glory of the stars, an ornament giving light in the highest places of the Lord.
In the what?
In the highest places of the Lord.
That's outer space. Outer space. In the highest places of the Lord. Outer space. Outside of the ozone layer. Outside of our atmosphere. Read. Verse 10.
At the commandment of the Holy One, they will stand in their order and never faint in their watches.
And never do what?
And never faint in their watches.
And never faint in giving charge for what they're supposed to do. Never stop giving light. That's what it means. Never faint in their watches. Never stop giving light. Okay? This was the fourth day. The fourth day when they were created, they were like that. And then obviously the moon goes through cycles or phases. All right? Okay, let's go back to Genesis 1 now. Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1 and read verse 18 again.
The book of Genesis chapter 1 verse 18. And to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good.
Read.
And the evening and the morning were the fourth day.
So this is the fourth day of creation. The fourth day of creation, the sun, moon, and stars was created outside of the ozone layer, in empty space, in outer space, in outer space. Okay? Now watch this. Now we're going to deal with the fifth day of creation. Verse 20 now. Genesis 1, verse 20.
The book of Genesis chapter 1 verses 20. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life.
Read. Come on.
And fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven.
Read that again, verse 20.
The book of Genesis chapter 1 verse 20. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven.
It says, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. This is talking about what? Our atmosphere. This is now inside of our atmosphere, inside of the sky. Let me put it like that. The sky, making reference to that. The sky. Okay? So, of course, where do birds fly? Do birds fly outside of the ozone layer? No. It's inside of the ozone layer. That's our sky. That's that open firmament is making reference to here. That's that open firmament. Read that again, verse 20.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 20. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven.
This open firmament is talking about our sky. Watch this. Go to Revelation now. Revelation chapter 19, verse 17. Revelation 19, verse 17. Look at the contrast here. Look at the two states. The firmament, there's two firmaments here that are being referenced. Okay, verse 17.
The book of Revelations,
chapter 19, verse 17.
Chapter 19, verse 17. And I saw an angel standing in the sun.
Standing where?
In the sun.
So the angel was standing in the sun. So where's the sun? Is it in our atmosphere? No.
No, sir.
So now imagine. Now, let's say that I'm going back to Christianity now because I hate that thing. So they say the angel slept with Mary. So the angel that is able to stand next to the sun can sleep with a woman? Are you kidding? Read that part again, verse 17.
The book of Revelations, chapter 19, verse 17. And I saw an angel standing in the sun.
The angel was standing in the sun. Where's the sun? That's in outer space now. Okay? That's that firmament. The waters above the firmament. That's where the sun is. That was created on the fourth day. Read.
And he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven.
The fowls that fly in the midst of heaven. Where is that? In our atmosphere, inside our atmosphere, under the ozone layer, our sky. That's what this is. So there's two states here. There's one outside of the ozone layer, which is outer space. Then you've got inside the firmament, which is our sky. That's where the birds of the earth, the birds of the sky fly. You understand? The fowls of the earth. Okay? Go back to Genesis 1. Genesis chapter 1, verse 20.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 20. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven.
So now I'm going to ask a question. In verse 20, when it says, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, what part of the earth is this? Come on, brothers. Video's on. Which part of the earth is this? Monday.
So this is the land.
No, you're not paying attention. Which part of the earth is this? Read that part again.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verses 21, verses 20. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that hath life, and the fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven.
It says, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that have life. Which part of the earth is this?
The waters, sir.
Yeah, but which part? How much? What's the percentage?
The sixth part.
You are guessing.
Oh, the
you are
sixth
wrong.
part.
You are guessing. You are guessing. Don't be guessing. Blessing.
Yes, I was about to say the sixth part.
The sixth part. No. Kanta. You're on mute.
Oh, sorry. It's the seventh part.
Oh, praise. The
Where
seventh part.
yes, sir.
The seventh part. The seventh part. Let's read it. Go back to 2nd Ezra chapter 6. The seventh part. Okay. 2nd Ezra chapter 6. Verse 42. Read that.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 42. Upon the third day, thou didst command that the waters should be gathered in the seventh part of the earth.
In the what?
In the seventh part of the earth.
In the seventh part of the earth. The seventh part. That's where the waters are gathered. The seventh part. Okay? Okay. You can turn off the video now. Genesis chapter 1, verse 20 again.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 20. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life.
So what part
and
is that?
fowl.
Hold on. What part is that, Solomon?
The seventh part, sir.
The seventh part. Come on.
And fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven.
That's our sky. Read on. Verse 21.
And God created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good.
So now, at this point, this is the fifth day now. The fifth day, the waters will bring forth abundantly the moving creatures, okay, sea life, the great whales, you understand? And every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, meaning different species of different kinds of sea life, all right? Then it says, and the waters which brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl, that's the birds now, after his kind, and God saw that it was good. So the bird was created, the great whales was created to be in the waters. All right, watch this. Verse 22 now, come on.
And God blessed them, saying, Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth.
And let fowls multiply in the earth. Now, give me second Ezra, chapter 6 now. Second Ezra chapter 6, verse 47.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 47. Upon the fifth day, thou saidest unto the seventh part.
The what part?
With the waters unto the seventh part.
Unto the seventh part. The seventh part, that's the water. Read.
Unto the seventh part where the waters were gathered, that it should bring forth living creatures, fowls and fishes.
Come on.
So it came to pass.
So fowls, fishes, you understand? Read on, verse 48.
For the dumb water and without life brought forth living things at the commandment of God, that all people might praise thy wonderful works.
But that all people might praise thy wondrous works. So now you see when it says, for the dumb water and without life. Without life. What was that life? The sea life that the Lord created in the water. That is the life that is making the water. And without life. Without the sea life in verse 47. Okay? Read verse 48 again.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 48. For the dumb water and without life brought forth living things at the commandment of God.
Read.
That all people might praise thy wondrous works.
Because on the sixth day, that's when the Lord will create so they can praise his wondrous works. Okay? Come on.
Then didst thou ordain two living creatures.
Come on.
The one thou callest Enoch, and the other Leviathan.
So now on the fifth day, there was two creatures outside of the fowls and the fishes that was created. There was two living creatures that the Lord created. So let me say that again in case somebody gets confused. It doesn't mean that on the fifth day, these are the two creatures that was created. No, we've already read of the variety of creatures that was created. Now he's making a point that over and above that, there was two creatures that was created. The names of them is Enoch and Leviathan. Read on, verse 50.
And did separate the one from the other. For the seventh part, namely, where the water are gathered together, might not hold them both.
So now, read verse 50 again.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 50. And did separate the one from the other. For the seventh part, namely, where the water was gathered together, might not hold them both.
So now, the seventh part, which is the waters, one creature is going to be put in the waters, okay? Because two of them cannot exist on the same territory. So now the Lord the Lord has created two separate locations for these two distinct animals to exist because they cannot exist on the same territory. Read.
And to Enoch thou gavest one part, which was dried up the third day.
Which was what?
Dried up the third day.
Which was dried up the third day. Which was dried up the third day. Go back to 2 Ezra 6:42.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 42. Upon the third day, thou did command that the waters should be gathered in the seventh part of the earth, 6 pots has thou dried up.
And you see
Kept
that 6 parts has thou dried up and kept them. Go back to 2nd Ezra 6, verse 50 again. No, verse 51.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 51.
Mhm.
And to Enoch thou gavest 1 part, which was dried up the 3rd day, that he should dwell in the same part wherein are 1,000 hills.
So now Enoch will be in the 3rd part, which is the dry land. You understand? It says wherein are 1,000 hills. You understand? We talk about mountainous environment. All right, mountainous environment. Read on, verse 52.
But unto Leviathan thou gavest the 7th part, namely the moist,
Mhm.
and hast kept him to be devoured, of whom thou wilt and when.
So now these creatures, the Lord has created them for what? For war, for destruction. You understand? Their time has not arrived yet. It's coming. So now there's 2 living creatures here, Enoch and Leviathan. Enoch is on the dry land. Leviathan lives in the water. That's their habitation. Enoch, dry land. Leviathan, the water. Let's deal with one creature at a time. Okay, we're going to deal with Leviathan. Give me the book of Job. Job chapter 41 verse 1. Job 41 verse 1. We're going to deal with Leviathan. Job, the book of Job chapter 41 verse 1. Let's start there. Come on.
The book of Job, chapter 41, verses 41.
No, verse 1. Job 41 verse 1. Pay attention. Come on.
The book of Job, chapter 41, verse 1.
Mhm.
Canst thou draw out Leviathan with a hook, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down?
You see that thing? It says, can you draw out Leviathan with a hook? Remember, Leviathan exists in the waters. It says, can you draw Leviathan with a hook? The same way you would catch fish with a hook. It says, can you pull it out with a hook? No, you can't. It says, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down. The same way they catch fish. No, you cannot. Read.
Canst thou put a hook into his nose, or bore his jaw through with a thorn?
He says, can you do that? It says, can thou put a hook into his nose? Can you put a hook into the nose of Leviathan? Or bore his jaw through with a thorn? Can you put a thorn through his jaw? Come on.
Will he make any supplications unto thee?
Will he make many supplications unto thee? Read it again.
Will the book of Job, chapter 41, verse 3. Will he make many supplications unto thee? Will he speak soft words unto thee?
Come on.
Will he make a covenant with thee? Wilt thou take him for a servant forever?
Okay, so now let's keep it simple. Just read verse 5. Read verse 5.
Wilt thou play with him as with a bird?
Will you play with Leviathan as with a bird? Come on.
Or wilt thou bind him for thy maidens?
Come on. Jump down to verse 7.
Can thou fill his skin with barbed irons?
Can you fill Leviathan's skin with barbed irons? Meaning, okay, to catch it out with barbed irons. Read.
And his head with fish spears?
Can you do that to Leviathan? Jump down verse 11.
Who had prevented me?
Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. Read verse 10.
The book of Job, chapter 41, verse 10.
Mhm.
None is so fierce that dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand before me?
Who can stand before Leviathan? Who can stand before Leviathan? He's asking. Read on.
Who had prevented me that I should repay him? Whatsoever is under the whole heaven is mine.
Is of the Lord. All right, read on.
I will not conceal his parts, nor his power, nor his comely proportion.
Watch this. Come on.
Who can discover the face of his garment?
Who can discover the face of Leviathan's garment? Read.
Or who can come to him with a double bridle?
Who can come to him with his double bread? Meaning what? To catch him out, to control Leviathan. Read.
Who can open the doors of his face?
Mm-hmm.
His teeth are terrible round about.
It says, the teeth of Leviathan are terrible round about. Read on, watch this.
His scales are his pride.
So now it says, hold on, this Leviathan is got scales that when you look at it, you listen, is the type of creature that you've never seen before. Read.
His scales are his pride, shut up together as with a closed seal.
So it says his scales are his pride, meaning what? He's got scales, but tough, shut up together as with a closed seal. That's how the scales are tight, they are close together, adjacent together, adjacent. Okay, read. Watch this, verse 16.
One is so near to another.
Meaning what?
That no-
His scales. He says his scales are so near one to another,
that no air come between them.
So the air cannot come between the scales of Leviathan. Read on, watch this.
They are joined one to another. They stick together. They cannot be sundered.
Meaning they cannot be separated. Read on, his scales. Meaning what? There's no type of weaponry that you can use to pierce through the scales of Leviathan. That's what it's saying. Read.
By his nesings,
By
a
his
light
nesting,
doth.
by his nesting, come on.
By his nesings, a light doth shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning.
And his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. What kind of creature is that? The eyelids of the morning. Have you ever seen when the sun is about to come out? You see it's red, meaning what? It's got red eyes. Okay? Read.
Out of his mouth go burning lamps.
Out of his mouth comes out fire. Okay? Fire out of his mouth. Read.
And sparks of fire leap out.
What kind of an animal is this? It sits in the ocean. It says the scales of it, you cannot pierce through the scales of it. You understand? Then it says, out of his mouth comes fire. The sparks of fire out of his mouth. Read. Verse 20.
Out of his nostrils goeth smoke.
Smoke comes out of his nose. Read.
As out of a seething pot or cauldron.
So a seething pot, meaning a boiling pot. Okay, that's how hot the smoke is. Read.
His breath kindleth coals.
Because, guys,
and
guess what? Because fire comes out of his mouth. Read.
And a flame goeth out of his mouth.
A flame. What kind of animal is that? What kind of an animal actually puts fire out of his mouth? And where did the Lord put it on the fifth day? In the ocean. Read.
In his neck remaineth strength.
Because the neck of it is very strong. That's why you can't pierce it. It's that type of animal that is being described here. Listen. Read on.
And sorrow is turned into joy before him.
You see that thing, sorrow, meaning what? When the Leviathan sees destruction, that makes Leviathan happy. Think about that thing. What type of creature is that? Read.
The flakes of his flesh are joined together.
The flakes of his flesh are joined together. Read on.
They are firm in themselves. They cannot be moved.
Very strong. Read on. Watch this.
His heart is as firm as a stone.
So his heart is as firm as a stone. Meaning what? Have you ever seen a stone? The Leviathan has got a heart as firm as a stone. Read.
As hard as a piece of the nether millstone.
Have you ever seen a millstone? The one that we used to use back in the day to grind meal and all of that, parch corn and so forth. That huge round stone. Read.
When he raiseth up himself, the mighty are afraid.
The mighty are afraid when the Leviathan stands up. Read.
By reason of breakings, they purify themselves.
Come on, watch this.
The sword of him that layeth at him cannot hold. The spear, the dart, nor the habergeon.
You know what a habergeon is? Let me show you what a habergeon is. A habergeon. Okay, let's get some definition of that. A habergeon. Habergeon. Okay, read that. Habergen.
Habergen,
Mhm.
a sleeveless coat. Oh,
Read it.
Habergen, a sleeveless coat of mail or scale armor.
You see that thing? Have you ever seen men that will go to war when they fight with swords and all of that? They were chain mail. Chain mail. Okay? Let me look at it so you can see because Habergen. Oh yes. This is a Habergen. Okay? A short sleeveless chain coat of chain mail. This is chain mail. When more get the Edomite here, but look at that thing. That's the Habergen right there. So they says the skin of this thing, okay, is so tough, like a what? Like it's wearing a chain mail, like it's wearing that thing. That's how strong the skin of Leviathan is. Okay, so you can understand. Okay, go back. Job chapter 41, verse 26 again. Job 41.
Book of Job, chapter 41, verse 26.
Mhm.
The sword of him that layeth at him cannot hold the spear, the dart, nor the habergeon.
You see that thing? Because it's stronger than all of these things, stronger than the sword, the spear, the dart, or anything that is strong as a habergeon. You understand? Read on.
He esteemeth iron as straw.
Read. Iron as straw. Come on.
And brass as rotten wood.
That's some heavy stuff. Brass. You ever seen brass? It says brass to Leviathan. Brass is like rotten wood. Read.
The arrow cannot make him flee.
The arrow, whether it's a missile, cannot make him flee. You cannot kill it with a missile. Okay, so you can understand. Read.
Slinging stones are turned with him into stubble.
You said sling stones are turned into stubble because they burn. Read.
Darts are counted as stubble.
Darts, meaning what? Arrows and all of that, they are counted as what?
As stubble.
You see that thing? Read.
He laugheth at the shaking of a spear.
What kind of a creature is this? Hold on. Read on. Come on. What's this?
Sharp stones are under him.
What? Whoa. Hold on. Read the stage again.
The book of Job, chapter 41, verse 30.
Read.
Sharp stones are under him.
Sharp stones are under him. Watch this. Read on.
He spreadeth sharp pointed things upon the mire.
Upon the mire, meaning what? Upon the mire, because remember, Leviathan is at the bottom of the ocean. Okay? Sharp stones are under him. Watch this.
He maketh the deep to boil like a pot.
Stop right there. Where Leviathan is, listen, is boiling hot. He is making the deep to be hot, boiling. What kind of a creature is this? That means where Leviathan is sitting, the water is boiling hot. You understand? Read.
He maketh the deep to boil like a pot. He maketh the sea like a pot.
Read verse 31 again.
The book of Job, chapter 41, verse 31. He maketh the deep to boil like a pot.
Mm-hmm.
He maketh the sea like a pot of ointment.
So the sea is like a pot of ointment on its scales. Read.
He maketh a path to shine after him.
What does he do?
He maketh the path to shine after him.
He maketh the path to shine after him, because out of his eyes cometh what? Lamps of fire, so he can see where he's going. Read.
One would think the deep to be hoary.
Hoary means white. One it says one would think the deep to be hoary because of the bright beams that comes out of Leviathan. Read.
Upon the earth there is not his like, who is made without fear.
Meaning what? Leviathan has no fear in him. Read.
He belongeth all high things.
He beholdeth. Come on.
The book of Job, chapter 41, verse 34. He beholdeth all high things. He is a king over all the children of pride.
He's the king over all the children of pride. Who are the children of pride? The Caucasian race. Esau, they are the children of pride. You see that Leviathan is created not just for them, but for wicked Israelites also. But watch this thing. Let's see what Leviathan looks like. Because everybody's wondering, what does Leviathan look like? Everybody ever seen Godzilla? That's Leviathan.
Yes, sir.
Can anybody see this thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all praise. Look at that thing. That's the foot of it. Why do you think Esau gets this stuff from? He gets it from the Bible. Esau is not that smart, okay? That's Leviathan right there. That is Leviathan right there. Look at that thing. That is Leviathan, okay? They are not going to be able to do nothing to this thing. But obviously, in Esau's movies, they win. Okay? But according to the scriptures, there's no weapon on this earth that can stand against Leviathan. It don't exist. Look at that thing. It says brass to him, iron is like what? It's like rotten wood. Look at that. That's Leviathan. So they're just lying, thinking that the iron is the dust is gonna the iron dust is gonna pierce him. They are not going to pierce him. That is just Esau's fairy tales, as always. But I just want to show you that this is Leviathan right there. Okay, that's Leviathan.
It's
Okay, so go back to Second Ezra now. Second Ezra chapter 6. Now that we've seen what Leviathan looks like, we're gonna deal with Enoch. Second Ezra 6 verse 49. These creatures were created on the 5th day. Okay, the 5th day. Second Ezra 6 verse 49. Read that thing.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 49.
Mm-hmm.
And didst thou ordain 2 living creatures, the one thou callest Enoch, and the other Leviathan.
So one was called Enoch, the other one was called Leviathan. Leviathan in the waters, Enoch in the thousand hills, mountainous environment. All right, watch this. Give me the book. Give me the book of Job, chapter 40, verse 15. Let's go back to the book of Job. Job 40, verse 15. We're gonna deal with Enoch now. Enoch. Okay. Actually, you know what? Now I'll show it later. Okay. Job 40, verse 15. Read that.
The book of Job, chapter 40, verses 15.
Mm-hmm.
Behold, now Behemoth.
Behemoth is Enoch. Behemoth is Enoch. Come on.
Behold, now Behemoth, which I made thee, which I made with thee, he eateth grass as an ox.
So Behemoth eateth grass as an ox. Behemoth eateth grass as an ox. Read.
Lo, now his strength is in his loins.
He says his strength is in his loins. Read on. Watch this.
And his force is in the navel of his belly.
So this is a big creature here. Okay. Read.
He moveth his tail like a cedar.
You ever seen a cedar tree? A cedar tree is the tallest, one of the tallest trees. Okay, a cedar tree. A cedar tree is tall. So it says the tail of this creature of Enoch is as long as a cedar tree. Read.
And the sinews of his stones are wrapped together.
The sinews of his stones, meaning what? The sinews is talk about the ligaments. Okay, the sinews of his stones. Read.
His bones are as strong pieces of brass.
It says his bones are as strong pieces of brass. What animal is this? It eats grass, but his bones are as strong pieces of brass. Read.
His bones are like the bars of iron.
His bones are like the bars of iron. Read.
He is the chief of the ways of God.
He is the chief of the ways of God. Read.
He that made him can make him sword to approach unto him.
It says, he that made him can make his sword to approach unto him. The only one that can approach to this creature is the Most High. He's the only one that can do it. Christ is the only one that can do that thing. Read.
Surely the mountains bring him forth
It says
food.
the mountains bring. It says the mountains bring him forth food. That's why it says he dwells among the 1,000 hills. Read.
Where all the beasts of the field play.
Mm-hmm.
He lieth under the shady trees in the covert of the reed and fence.
So now these trees, that means these are tallest trees, meaning there's parts of the earth where the white man has not arrived yet. That's what it's saying. Read.
The shady trees cover him with their shadow. The willows of the brook compass him about. Behold, he drinketh up a river.
He does what?
Drinketh up a river.
Meaning this creature is so big that it can drink up a river. Read.
And hasteth not.
He doesn't rush either when he's drinking water. Read.
He trusteth that he can throw up Jordan into his mouth.
So now just think about that thing. This animal can drink the whole Jordan River. What kind of a creature is this? Read.
He taketh it with his eyes. His nose pierceth through snares.
So he said he taketh it with his eyes. Meaning he looks at Jordan, he says, I'm going to drink this whole thing up. Okay? Now, this type of animal, so just imagine this. Read verse 16 again.
The book of Job, chapter 40, verse 15. Behold now Behemoth, which I made with thee. He eateth grass as an ox.
Read.
Lo now, his strength is in his loins.
His strength is in his loins. That means the loins, because the loins is around your waist area. So that means this type of creature, you understand, is God. You see what Godzilla, how it was standing? Just like that. So because in order for the creature has a long tail, like a cedar tree. So in order for this type of animal to be able to handle that, the tail as long as a cedar tree, how big must this animal be? Because look at the cedar tree. The cedar tree is long, it's a tall tree. So in order for what type of animal would they need to be to handle such a long tail? That's why it says that his strength is in his loins to be able to handle the tail. We understand? Read.
And
come on.
lo now, his strength is in his loins, and his force is in the navel of his belly.
It says, and his force is in the navel of his belly. Meaning what? His belly. You see where the belly area is? So look at the way Enoch, not Enoch, but Leviathan is. The belly. You see that belly, what it looks like? Because in order for him to be able to drink up Jordan, what type of belly would he need to have? The sinews, the muscles. What type of muscles is those? Okay, read.
And he moveth his tail like a cedar. The sinews of his stones are wrapped together.
The sinews of his stones are wrapped together. Watch this, verse 18.
His bones are as strong as pieces of brass.
No, read that again, verse 18.
The book of Job, chapter 40, verse 18. His bones are as strong as pieces of brass.
No, his bones are as strong pieces of bread. Come on, read that right. Come on.
The book of Job, chapter 40, verse 18. His bones are as strong pieces of brass.
Strong pieces of brass. So, hold on. What type of animal is this? Where the bones are like pieces of brass. Okay? Read.
His bones are like bars of iron.
His bones are like bars of iron. Now, let's see what Enoch looks like. So pay attention. Okay, look at that thing. Could you look at those ones at the back? These are smaller ones. Look at this one right here. You see that one? Brothers, you see that?
Yes, sir.
Look at the ones at the back. Look at the tail of that thing. This is just a poor man's version of the rendering of Enoch. Okay? By the way, Enoch is a dinosaur. Where do you think these white people get this stuff from? They say dinosaurs. Where do you think they get this stuff from? But I just wanted to show you, brothers and sisters, what the scriptures is talking about. Okay, this was created on the 5th day. All right, this is one of the creatures that was created on the 5th day. All right, okay, so let's go back. Go back to Genesis chapter 1 now. Genesis 1. Genesis chapter 1 and verse 22. Read that.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 22.
Mhm.
God blessed him, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth.
Read.
And the evening and the morning were the 5th day.
The evening and the morning was the 5th day. So we just went over the 5th day of creation. Okay, come on. Verse 24 now.
And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after his kind, and it was so.
Mhm.
And God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and the cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good.
So now, so the cattle, the creeping things was created now. This is the 6th day now creation. You understand? The cattle, the creeping things, the cattle after their kind, creeping things after their kind. All right? Watch this. Give me 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse 53. 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse 53.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verses 53.
Read.
Upon the 6th day, thou gavest commandment unto the earth, that before thee it should bring forth beasts, cattle, and creeping things.
You see that thing? Beast, cattle, and creeping things. Go back to Genesis 1, verse 25, verse 24 and 25 together.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verses 24.
Mhm.
And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after his kind, and it was so.
Read.
And God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good.
Now watch this. Verse 26 now. Come on.
And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth.
So now read verse 26 one more again.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 26. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth.
So now when it says, and God said, let us make man in our image. Let's deal with the us first. Let us make man in our image. Give me the book of Acts, chapter 7, verse 55. Okay? And God said, let us make man in our image. All right? Acts, chapter 7, verse 55. Read that.
The book of Acts, chapter 7, verse 55.
Mm-hmm.
But he, being full of the Holy Ghost, looked up steadfastly into heaven and saw the glory of God and Jesus standing on the right hand of God.
So now this is Stephen, okay? He was filled with the Holy Ghost. He saw the glory of God and Jesus standing on the right hand of God. Now, that's the us, okay? But we need to deal with the last part of with the other part of that thing. Give me the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 7, verse 1. Because remember, the us is making reference to God, Christ, and the angels. So in Acts chapter 7, verse 55, is going to Christ and the Most High. Now let's deal with the angels. 2nd Ezra chapter 7, verse 1. Because the word God is plural, means powers. Okay? 2nd Ezra 7, verse 1. Watch this.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 7, verse 1. And when I had made an end of speaking these words, there was sent unto me the angel which had been sent unto me the night before.
So now the night afore. Come on, you are assuming stuff here. You are adding stuff. Read verse 1 again.
The second book of Ezra, chapter 7, verse 1. And when I had made an end of speaking, and when I had made an end of speaking these words, there was sent unto me the angel which had been sent unto me the nights afore.
So now the angel was sent to Ezra. Watch this. Come on.
And he said unto me, up, Ezra, and hear the words that I am come to tell thee.
Read.
And I said, speak on, my God.
What did he say?
Speak on, my God.
Read verse 1. Let's see who he's talking to. Verse 1 again.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 7, verse 1. And when I had made an end of speaking these words, there was sent unto me the angel which had been sent unto me the nights afore.
So now you see what Ezra is saying to the angel is speak on, my God. Speak on, my God. He's calling the angel God because God means power. Give me that in 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 5. 1 Corinthians 8, verse 5. Speak on, my God. 1 Corinthians 8, verse 5.
First book of Corinthians, chapter 8, verse 5. For though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or in earth, as there be gods many and lords many.
You see that thing? For though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven, because that's where the angels are, or in earth. You understand? So go back to Genesis 1, verse 26.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 26. And God said, let us make man in our image.
So now that's making reference to what? The Most High God, Christ in the angels. Let us make man in our image. Okay, read.
After our likeness.
After our likeness, read on.
And let them have dominion.
So it says, let us make man. Who's this man? The man here in verse 26 is making reference to mankind. Mankind. Verse 26 again, read that slow. Okay.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 26.
And
God said, let us make man in our image.
So man is making reference to mankind. Read.
After our likeness. And let
mankind, let them, come on,
have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth.
Read.
So God created man in his own image.
So God created man in his own image, mankind in his own image. It's still going reference to mankind. Yeah, it says God created man in his own image. Read on.
In the image of God created he him.
Stop right there. Read that part again.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 27. So God created man in his own image.
Mhm.
In the image of God created he him.
The him here is talking about Adam. The him here is talking about Adam. Read.
Male and female created he them.
Male and female created he them. That them is not talking about Adam and Eve. Okay? Male and female created he them is talking about mankind in verse 26. Male and female created he them is talking about mankind in verse 26. But when it says, in the image of God created he him, the him here is talking about Adam. The him here is talking about Adam. Write that down. Second Ezra 6 verse 53.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 53. Upon the sixth day, thou gavest commandment unto the earth, that before thee it should bring forth beasts, cattle, and creeping things.
Watch this. Verse 54.
After these, Adam also.
That's the him. That's why it says and in the image of him, in the image of God, created he him in Genesis 1:26. Read verse 54 again in second Ezra.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 54.
Come on.
And after these, Adam also,
Mhm.
whom thou madest Lord over all thy creatures.
Who thou madest Lord of all thy creatures, meaning of all God's creation. Read.
Of him come we all.
Stop right there. Notice here it says, of him, of Adam, come we all. Go back to Genesis 1 now. Watch this thing. Genesis 1:26.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 26. And God said, let us make man in our image,
Read.
after our likeness,
Mhm.
and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth.
Now watch this. You see in verse 26, you might assume that verse 26 came before verse 27 because the Bible is not written like that. Okay? Read verse 27 now. Watch this.
So God created man in his own image.
Mankind,
In the image of God created he him.
in the image of God, created he him. The him here is Adam in 2nd Ezra 6 verse 54. Read.
Male and female created he them.
Go back to 2nd Ezra 6 verse 54 so we can understand which one came first.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 54. And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord over all thy creatures, of him come we all.
You see that thing? Of him come we all. So Adam was made first, and everybody else was modeled after Adam. You understand? That's why ESO today, the white man and his scientists, T-men, Germany, they are trying to create clones. They are doing cloning. Where do you think they get that stuff from? What we are reading in Genesis. Adam was created, and then Adam, everybody else was fashioned after what Adam looks like. You understand? Different nations was created at this point. Okay? Now watch this. Read verse 54 and finish it. 2nd Ezra 6 verse 54.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verses 54. And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord over all thy creatures, of him come we all, and the people also whom thou hast chosen.
The people that the Lord chose from that lineage of Adam, which were called the sons of God during the time of Genesis. Today they were called the children of Israel. Read verse 55, watch this.
All this I spoken before thee.
No, read that again, verse 55.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 55. All this have I spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou madest the world for our sakes.
Now, verse 56 is what I want. Just the first part of verse 56. Watch this.
As for the other people,
As for the what?
as for the other people,
As for the other people. Hold this, verse 56. Go back to Genesis 1:26.
the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 26. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth.
So now, the mankind is what we are reading here in verse 56 when it says, as for the other people. So the other people that mankind is making reference to, they come from Adam, they come of Adam also. That's why here it says, as for the other people, we talk about mankind, everyone else. Okay, but Adam was made first. Everyone else is the other people in 2nd Ezra 6, verse 56. Go back to 2nd Ezra 6, verse 56.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 56. As for the other people, which also come of Adam,
Which
that
what?
was said,
Which do what?
which also come of Adam.
Which also come of Adam. They come of Adam also because they were modeled after the likeness of Adam. Read.
Which come of Adam also.
What verse you at? Read verse 56 again.
Second book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 56. As for the other people, which also come of Adam, thou hast said that they are nothing.
They are nothing. The other nations are nothing, even from the time of Genesis. Read.
But like unto a spittle.
Unto spit that comes out of your mouth. Read.
And has likened the abundance of them.
The abundance of them. Hold on. The abundance of them. Remember, when we read about the creation account, remember it says he created the sea life to. He created the abundant water for the sea life to dwell in. I'm paraphrasing. So now, guess what? The abundance of the people after their kind. The abundance of the people after their kind. Meaning different nations were created during the time of Genesis. Okay? So they are in abundance. But all of them, they were modeled after the likeness of Adam. All right? But the only difference is they were not given the breath of life. Although they were given some laws, they were given the moral law, the morality, a conscience to be able to know right from wrong. So don't get it twisted. The nations were given the understanding of from right from wrong, morality. They were given that. That's why they are going to be judged. Okay? Go back to second Ezra 6, verse 56 again.
Second book of Ezra, 6, verse 56. As for the other people, which also come of Adam, thou hast said that they are nothing, but like unto spittle, and hast likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel.
Now watch this. Give me Wisdom of Solomon chapter 10, verse 1. Remember, Adam was created first, and then everyone else was modeled after his likeness. Okay? Watch this. I'm almost done. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 10, verse 1. I told you that I'm going to take my time with this because I see it look like I'm rushing. Wisdom of Solomon 10, verse 1. Read that.
Wisdom of Solomon chapter 10, verse 1. She preserved the first formed father of the world.
See that thing? The first formed father of the world. That's Adam. Read. The she is wisdom. Wisdom preserved the first formed father of the world. Read.
That was created alone.
That was what?
Created alone.
That was created alone. Adam was created alone. And then everyone else came after that. Read.
And brought him out of his fall.
Read.
And gave him power to rule all things.
All things, every creature and everyone. Adam was given that thing. And the direct line of Adam, which is us, we was given the same power. Okay? Give me that in Wisdom of Solomon 7, verse 1 now. Wisdom of Solomon 7 verse 1. Come on.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 1.
Mhm.
I myself also am a mortal man, like to all, and the offspring of him that was first made of the earth.
And the offspring of him, the him is Adam. The offspring of him that was first made of the earth. Who was first made of the earth? Adam. He was created alone. You understand? He was created alone out of the dust of the ground. Now, Genesis 1:27, go back there.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them.
Now, watch this. Genesis 2, verse 7. Because now Genesis 2 goes into the details of Adam. Okay? The details of the creation account. It goes into more details. But what I want to deal with is Adam. Genesis 2, verse 7.
The book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 7. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And man became a living soul.
So now Moses here is explaining, he's giving you the details of how Adam was created. When it says, in the image of God created he him, Adam. He was formed of the dust of the ground, and he was breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. He became a living soul.